Talk about how emotions can contribute to physical disease.
It's the main reason why people get sick. So moving energy is moving the repressed emotions. So you're right. Most people have no idea what they're feeling. I would say 98% of the people I care for think that they're anxious, depressed. But when I get them into their emotional response system, which takes a little bit of work to get them out of their head and into their authentic emotions, most of them are happy. The first thing I would recommend is that you need to emotionally fall in love with yourself. You want to take some of that energy into your own body so that you start calibrating into your own subatomic particles, self-love, self-worth. That enhances the immune system. So no matter what health issue is going on for you, if you can fall in love with yourself, even just a little bit, you're going to start to improve your health, and then you're going to change your energy, which is going to help you then attract other solutions.
So welcome to the Michelle Chalfant Show, Marie Manuchehri.
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It's a pleasure to be here on your podcast and to get to know your audience and you, of course. It's exciting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. I feel like when we were just talking, I feel like I already know you. So this is going to be fun.
Right?
Okay. Marie, I was telling you, I think I found you, I don't know, it was several years ago, let's just say. And I was listening to your interview and I said, oh my goodness, I love her. I'd like to have her on the show. So thank you so much. And why don't you, I'd like you to, if you could start in summary of how you became who you are today. Tell people about your background because I think it's an interesting story.
Okay, thank you so much for asking me. Well, I was raised very holistically. So my mother, who's I think she's going to be 88 this year,
Oh, wow.
doesn't take any pharmacology. So my mother rarely took us to a physician unless we broke a bone or I had an asthma attack once. We would get our vaccines, which back in the day were minimal compared to today's vaccine. And our pediatrician would make us go to the back door of the pediatrician because we weren't vaccinated in timely manner. So my childhood was kind of like a hippie-ish kind of childhood. My parents both were devout Catholics until they left the church when I was around 5. I'm the oldest of 5 kids. We're all a year apart. And my mother, after she stopped being mad at God, because she wanted to take birth control pills because she already had 5 kids and she was excommunicated when she asked her priest for permission because they were devout, very responsible Catholics. And so after she got mad, I think it took her about 8 months, she started to fill our home with books on spirituality. And so I started reading them when I was quite young. And I had spiritual experiences, but not every single day, but profound ones, maybe every few years, sometimes every 5 years, but not all the time. And when I was 37, while I was working as an oncology nurse, which my mother was not happy about, she didn't want me to go to nursing school. I was married, I had children. I finally went back to school after putting my children's father through college. And he suggested that I should study nursing. And I go, why? I should go, if I'm going to do medicine, I should be at a naturopathic university. He goes, whatever, I think you should study nursing. I loved every moment of my prerequisites. I got into nursing school after my baby was 6 months old, and I loved every minute of nursing school. And I ended up working in a hospital, and I had to go to the oncology floor because I had started to have tachycardia. I was working graveyard shifts, 312s, while taking care of kids, and the whole woman thing that women do. Right?
Yes.
And I went to one of the cardiologists on the floor and said, I'm having tachycardia. He did all these tests because he thought I had a mitral valve prolapse. That's what he had predicted, but I didn't. He said it was my biorhythms and I needed to work day shift. And the only opening in the hospital was the oncology floor. And you can only imagine when you're raised really holistically, I thought oncology, oh my gosh, I love also every minute of the oncology floor. And that's when my psychic ability opened up and stayed open while I was at the bedside of patients who I worked in-house. So all of our patients were extremely ill. And I began to see and hear energy a lot. And I was a charge nurse most days that I worked. So I went to my supervisor because I was afraid I would not go get the crash cart in a timely manner if one of our patients were to code. And I had a rule when I was the charger, so nobody coded under my watch. I would have
Mm.
transferred to the ICU unit or have their code status changed. It was like a big deal for me. And so I went to my nurse supervisor thinking that she was going to suspend me and order a psych eval, which is what I would have done,
Mhm.
I think. And she said, "You're seeing energy and you need to start laying your hands on our patients."
Wait a minute. Your supervisor said this to you?
My
So she was
supervisor.
doing the same thing?
Yeah, well, I interviewed her after, years later when I had a radio show, I interviewed her and she was working then at Fred Hutch, which is a big cancer center here in the Northwest. And she helped them to integrate naturopathic physicians into their clinic so that people could have support or make different choices if they wanted to. So she was amazing. Her name is Lois. She's a wonderful. So she was raised very similarly than I was, but yet we
Mm.
both ended up in modern medicine.
Wow. What was that like for you when you say you're starting to see energy? Like, was that scary? Were you open to it? Were you like, oh, of course, it's their energy? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I wasn't scared at all. I think because I read Seth Speaks,
Oh yeah, I did too.
really young, right? And so I was pleasantly surprised, delighted. Like, I think one of the first experiences that I recall, I was standing at the bedside of a patient. I was probably changing an IV or changing some IV fluid. And all of a sudden my eyes kind of acted like lasers, and I started to see through the blanket as if I was moving through her blanket. And then I
Mhm.
could see into her body. And then all of a sudden I was in her liver, and her liver was telling me not just the reasons why she was ill because of the medications we were giving her, but the emotional reason why she had been ill, which even stretched out to previous lifetimes. So I'd be standing at the bedside just getting a download of
Wow.
quite a bit of information about people. And so you can only imagine why I was a little concerned that I was going to be distracted. So I still love every second of it. It's one of my greatest joys to be able to witness the multisensory world.
Oh my God, I love it. Okay. Keep on
Okay.
going.
So I started laying hands on patients right in the hospital, and I touched hundreds of them. And I would go into patients' rooms that I was not assigned to so that I wouldn't know very much about their health issue. And I would lay hands on them and have all these amazing, wonderful experiences. And I created an encyclopedia in my brain about what energy medicine looks like and what the real cause of their health issue is. And then I would go and read their chart and make this wonderful understanding between the actual modern medicine diagnosis they got and the energy medicine diagnosis that I had. And sometimes supervisors in other parts of the hospital would ask me to come in on my day off when they would have employees who were now in the hospital, and they would ask me to lay hands on them. So I was really supported. Physicians on 3 different times wrote orders for me to lay hands on patients.
Were you actually healing people, or when you were laying hands on them, you were doing healing work?
Yeah, I am
Yeah.
a healer. That's truly what I am. Although I believe people heal themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that the staff notices that at the very least their pain went away, their
Wow.
anxiety went away, they were released quicker from the hospital. So that's how it all started for me. And so I'm self-taught. I haven't taken any. I took a course after I already had a practice, and I only stayed for 1 year. It was a 4-year course because every time I asked a question, the teacher, who was lovely, kept saying, "That's a 4-year question." And I'm like, okay, well, I
I,
don't have time to wait for the 4th year. So, and then people just started showing up at my house unannounced, is what happened.
Mm.
And I was married at the time, and my children's father, of course, didn't really understand energy medicine, but was very intrigued by it and thought it was fascinating. And one day I was trying to talk him into letting me buy, at the time, it was quite a bit of massage therapy equipment so that I could make an office since people are showing up at my house. And okay, well, I better start a business, right?
Uh-huh.
And he wasn't really going for it. He didn't want to spend the money because I wanted a lovely stationary table.
Mm-hmm.
I'd asked him to move his weights out of the den that we had, and he did, which I didn't think he would either, quite frankly. And while we're having this discussion, one of his friends came over to the house, and he also was quite frugal. So I thought, I'm not getting this stuff. I wasn't a very independent woman at that time in my life, even though I had a job and created wealth. I listened to my spouse, right? And his friend talked him into ordering everything. And about 5 months later, his friend was diagnosed with a benign brain tumor that
Wow.
was in a tricky location. And so he laid on my table for months prior to his surgery. And then I was able to go into the ICU immediately after his surgery, or whenever they let us in. And I was able to lay hands and do energy work on him
Mm,
operatively. So it's
mm.
like unconsciously, like his guides were talking, to him unconsciously, and my children's father's guides unconsciously, so I could get all this equipment and have everything ready for his friend who needed some energy work so that he could have a full recovery, which he did, which was wonderful.
Wow. Thanks to you, it sounds like. I
And I
mean,
always think of it as a team, a skilled neurosurgeon went in there, because benign tumors can continue to grow and they can
yeah.
create havoc as something that's cancerous. And so I always feel like I'm working with a team. I really don't care how people heal. I
Hmm.
don't have a vested interest that it needs to be one particular way. And I think that's what's allowed my practice to be so large, because I respect and honor everyone's decision and choices. I certainly will have my own ideas and my own perceptions, and I offer all of those. And those who take them heal very quickly, have huge resolutions, but I'm happy to hold space for all kinds of people. So yeah, I started a practice in, I think it was 1999.
Hmm.
And I've been full-time ever since. I'm also a medium and all
Mm,
kinds of an author, and speak and teach. Teaching is really my jam these days.
mhm.
I haven't even opened up my 2027 calendar in years. So we have a hiccup going on in that area, but we're working on some, we're calling them power sessions, to get the hundreds of people who are on my cancellation list off, and
Mm.
find a way to provide service, but one that is just as inspiring to me as my teaching. So
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So just finish your story though. So you were still working as an oncology nurse. You
right.
have this little table. I'm picturing this little office at home with your little table and people are knocking at your door. And then you clearly transitioned into something much bigger.
Right.
So,
So in 2000, I took a leave of absence because the hospital didn't want me to leave. I first had this idea, oh, I'm just going to train the other nurses. That was my idea, that
yeah.
I didn't think about starting a practice. I just, oh, I'll just teach all this to that. But they weren't really interested in that, not in the way that I wanted to teach. I mean, we do have healing touch as an incredible modality that's in hospitals around the world and
Hmm.
is taught to all kinds of people, but certainly is geared towards medical professionals.
Hmm.
And the universe kind of sent me down one day, and said to me, you need to be on your own. You need to, we want your own insight. We want your own awareness. We want your own consciousness. We don't want you to be swayed in any direction. We want your individualization to come through for your own unique ideas and your own divinity.
Hmm.
And so I actually hand painted with stencils. So it's not true freehand, the ceiling of that den, which took me like 3 weeks. And I took a leave of absence and I began to see clients in the house. And I worked per diem at the hospital. And then I was getting a divorce. So because I could see my marriage, and I was married for 21 years. I worked really hard in it. And I wasn't able to get him to change. And he doesn't want
Hmm.
to change, right? But I
Hmm.
was changing significantly and becoming empowered and
Hmm.
loving myself more
Yeah.
than I had before.
Hmm.
And we were both wanting full custody of our children.
Hmm.
So the judge ordered me back to the hospital full time.
Oh.
And he said, because you can't really afford your kids on this and your home on what you're doing right now. So I was telling my clients that I don't know when I can see you. I'm going to have to go back to the hospital. And one of my clients was an osteopath, and she'd worked with energy workers for many years. And she goes, why don't you just come to my clinic? I'll refer all of my patients to you. So
Wow.
I didn't even tell, excuse me, I didn't even tell the judge. I just went to her office and started to see patients. And it was so fun because I could chart everything that I could hear, see, and feel. I felt very supported. I worked for her for about a year. And
Mm.
then I brought my practice back home. I really wanted to work in my home. And again, this idea that Like she had an idea of how many times people needed to have a session. I have a completely different idea about how often people need to be seen. And I think
Mhm.
energy work can have a very profound effect on people for months on end, even after a session. So I went back home and I was full time ever since. I never went back to the hospital. I've only had this career, and
Wow.
it's been amazing. I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
Wow. What a story. I mean, wow. So you said you started doing like putting hands on patients in the hospital, and then you said I became a medium too.
Right.
So explain in case someone that's listening goes, well, wait, what does that mean? But explain that and
You.
then talk about what that experience was like for you as well.
Thank you so much for reminding me where I need to bring these steps. So I'm highly, highly psychic.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know that, growing up. I've had psychic experiences my whole life. My grandmothers on my mother's side, one of them was highly psychic, but nobody told me until I started having openings in my late 30s. My uncles started to call me and say, "You're just like great grandmother Lucinda," who was
Mm.
a Cherokee Indian. And she and her cousin moved off of a reservation in Oklahoma, married these two Frenchmen. I think they eventually, all of them moved into a ranch in Idaho. And people would come on the weekend for healings. Um,
Wow.
so people would trade, they would do work on the farm, like mend fences or whatever needed to be done. And then my great grandmother and her relative would lay hands on people. So when I lay hands, but I don't have to even touch anyone, right? I
Hmm.
have clients around the world, people I've never met before. I answer questions just by people's voices. I really don't need anything to be
Hmm.
able to see, hear, and feel someone's energy. So in the beginning, though, when I would lay hands on, that's what I needed to do is lay hands on them and close my eyes. I had to close my eyes so I could shut out the third dimensional space so I could dive deep into people's bodies. And so what happens for me is I can see the internal anatomy and physiology of the human body, all the chakra system, all
Mm.
the light centers, their past lives, their auric field. I have whatever
Wow.
I need, right? So
Yep.
everyone needs different things,
Hmm.
right? There are some clients I've worked with, I've never seen any of their past lives. I have clients that the first time I work with them, I see a line of their past lives and we have to do some sort of integration and letting go and new perceptions. Really, everything's about changing perception. Everything is about that. That's what creates healing. That's what creates expansion and
Mm.
consciousness. And so that's literally what I'm doing besides moving energy in people's bodies. So I know how to move energy. It's just a natural thing that I had no idea that I knew how to do. And I do it all the time. It's just, I do it in my personal life in terms of my neighborhood and my
Mm.
family, myself and my home, just keeping everything in high frequency. So energy, subatomic particles are always in constant movement and everything is made out of energy. Whatever device you're looking into, the computer I'm looking into, our clothes are subatomic particles.
Hmm.
Everything in the universe is made out of energy. And this has been proven by quantum physics scientists for decades, right? It's an old, proven scientific fact. And subatomic particles move based on how we perceive them. So, Earth is a very interesting reality where the particle mass is moving at a slower frequency and it allows things to look physical to us. That's what makes our phone look like a phone, when in reality, it really just looks like electrons and protons and other beautiful particle masses. But our energy here is third dimensional, it's physical. So we have a physical experience, but we are also beings of light. We come from the heavens. That's our original home. We're souls. We're all part of creation and God. We're endless. And so our body is like a temple and it stores part of the energy we bring to the earth realm, the parts that we think would be helpful or that need to be healed, all of those things. So I think everyone's intuitive. I think everyone is naturally intuitive for the very least for their own personal life. And then some people like yourself and myself, we tend to be intuitive for the general population. We have more awareness and consciousness for whatever reason. Maybe we're teachers and we're providing an awareness for the consciousness to evolve with
Hmm.
human race.
Hmm. Ooh, you just said a lot of good stuff right there, sister.
So
Yeah.
I have all the clairs, but my primary ability is to see.
Yeah.
but I can hear, I can feel. In fact, if I have resistance towards anything, which most of us are unconscious of our resistance. I was working on a client once. I used to work at everyone in-house. People would just come to my house. I used to see people a day, 25 people a week. So I've seen thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And I was working on this one person. I was laying my hands on her, and we were just about to finish the session. And all of a sudden, I got this terrible pain in my leg. It started in my hip and it went all the way down my leg. And I didn't have any physical health issues at that time. And I said to her, finally, I go, do you get pain in your left leg? She goes, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you. It's been so chronic. I've had it for such a long time. And so then I was able to address that. But it's like I couldn't see it. I wasn't conscious of it. And so the universe, this is what the universe does to help us move deeply into our intuition. It will provide opportunities for us at all times to have a different sense of awareness, a different form of consciousness, so that I could help her. And hips are notoriously about moving forward in one's life. And so when people hold themselves back, they could potentially cause hip issues, within their own physical form.
Ooh, okay. Let me try to condense the questions here.
I'm so sorry.
Such good stuff. You said something about perception that you're simply, and I don't mean that, like, oh, that's all you're doing, but it's a big deal. You're
It's a huge deal.
changing someone's perception. Can you
Right.
expand on that just a little bit?
Sure. So the one thing that comes to mind, I am a medium. I also opened up as a medium while working in the hospital. I had a very interesting, lovely experience with a dead person who was floating on the ceiling. And I wasn't surprised that I saw someone floating on the ceiling. I didn't know that they were deceased. But she kept looking at me, and eventually she kept yelling at me because I was distracted. I have 3 kids at home. I was getting a divorce, having this big life change, and I'm tired, right? And she goes, you need to go talk to my son. And I'm in a big unit. I didn't know where he was. I didn't know his name. Finally, because I kept kind of blowing her off. I know that sounds terrible. I really was tired. And finally, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, close to the end of my shift, she goes, she again kind of yelled at me, and a door just started to glow. One of the doors. I'm like, oh, he's in there. Right. So I went in the room, and there was a woman sitting beside him, and I assumed it was his wife, but it wasn't. He introduced to me his sister. And I said, is your mother deceased? And he said, yes. I go, would you consider her a strong personality? And they both just cracked up. And I said, well, she's been yelling at me kind of all day to come in and see you. So do you mind if I lay hands on you? And luckily I was the charge nurse. I could go, I'm the charge nurse. So, too wacky. And I laid hands on him, and I could hear her, and I didn't know anything about him. He wasn't my patient. And of course, I did ask his nurse before I went to the room, because everybody knew that I was having these unusual experiences and having different conversations with my patients and other people's patients. And so I always like to ask the nurse permission first, if Ron to, their patient. And she said, sure, you go right ahead. And his mother told me that he was terminal. He had pancreatic cancer, and he didn't know how long he was going to live. And he was worried that this hospitalization was his last hurrah. And she wanted him to know that it wasn't, and that he was going to go home and he was going to spend more time with his family. And that when it was time for him to go, she was going to be right there to be with it. She was with him already. Where else would you be?
Yeah.
If you're on the other side and your child was ill, you would be with your kid.
Of course.
And his sister didn't even know he was worried. He was very stoic and wasn't telling anyone how he felt. So he's crying, and she's crying, and I'm crying. We're all just having a lovely moment where then they could also talk about it, and he didn't have to hold that burden and responsibility inside of him. So that was my very first medium experience. And I talked to a lot of parents who've lost children. And so you can only imagine, everything that they've gone through, partially because on Earth, we have decided as a society of people that if you lose a child, it's one of the worst things that could ever happen to you. That's a perception, by the way.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
Because
Yeah.
Souls don't look at chronological age, and
Mm,
souls come here, when they come here to have an experience, they're very curious creatures and they want to figure things out and they want to have fun. And, I love Earth. I think it's one of the coolest realities I've ever visited. I don't remember all of my past lives. I remember some of them, but I think it's one of the coolest experiences. So souls don't go, oh, I can't, I have to live till I'm 80,
mhm.
or now we're living into our hundreds. People are
Yeah.
going to live very long periods of time. They are looking at when they have a resolution, an awareness, a consciousness, when they're filled up, or if they're just fed up with Earth, because souls have free will. It's the strongest law in all of the universes. And so a soul could go the day it was born, or when it's 3 or 10 or 100, and the soul doesn't look at chronological age at all. So that's one of the perceptions that has been very helpful for a lot of parents
Mm,
who have lost a child, and kind of when it's your kid, you don't care how old they are anyway. They
right.
could be 40
Right.
and they're your baby, right? And oddly enough, that perception has helped them, because if we start to change the way we look at life and souls and expansion and reincarnation, and we start becoming more and more conscious, we're going to
Mhm.
get rid of that perception too, which
Mm.
when I was very, very young, I never looked at it. I just knew that anyone could leave the planet at any moment. In
Mhm.
fact, when all my kids reached 18, I cried kind of of
Mm.
relief. Okay, we made it. They're all
Right.
alive still.
Right.
And although I want to be the one in the ground before them, you know, they're their own soul. So we have to change our perceptions and start to look at quality life and soul and honoring soul's decisions about how long they want to live here and when they want to cross over, even though we're going to have these human ideals of what we want to experience. We have to really expand our consciousness. So that's one of the things that surprised me, that brought some peace to parents. And then the other perception that people have, or worry, especially when you've lost someone near and dear to you, people worry about people who've crossed over, which is
Mhm.
so hysterical to me. Like, this is one of the lowest time space realities in all of the cosmos is Earth. Like, words like violence and poverty and crime do not even exist outside of our reality.
Mhm.
So you can only imagine, as you know already, right?
Mhm.
That you cross
Mhm.
over, oh, it's amazing. It's high frequency, it's joy, it's creative. And there's so much knowledge. People can't hurt you anyway. You don't have a body, you don't eat,
Mhm.
you need to pay taxes. It's a completely different reality. But just explaining that to people so that they can start to change their perception
Mhm.
helps them to come to peace, right, with a
S-
decision that another soul made.
And speaking of that perception, I think about people that have lost someone and they'll say, it was not their time. Is
Yeah.
that a statement that is, or they went too soon? But doesn't the soul know when it's going to go? Like it's
Yeah.
not like you can't have an oops death. Is that
Right. There's
true?
no oops anything.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah,
Right,
like there's
right.
no oops death. I agree with you. I believe we
Yeah.
have 5 potential exits,
Yes, I've heard
right?
this.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
So
yes.
before we reincarnate, we may have an idea of because we know in order to get our energy out of the temple, our body
Mhm.
has to die for the
Mhm.
consciousness that we have on Earth. Eventually, we'll all be like Tibetan monks, and we'll
Mhm.
just lower our blood pressure and our pulse, and we'll just gently walk our energy out of our body.
And we're out.
Not right now, right? There's not enough consciousness on Earth for that right now.
Yeah.
So maybe the one exit we hope we choose is later in life. And we even choose how we want to die. Do we want it quick,
Hmm.
fast? Do we want to know about it? Does it happen at the hands of another person? Do we take our own life? Because I believe every form of death is a form of suicide, by the way. I kind of
Mm.
just don't even like the term suicide. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't mind it. It's just other people don't like it. It's
Hmm.
comfortable for them. But souls are choosing when and how they're going to leave the body. And they make
Mm.
those decisions based on previous times they've been in a physical form. And maybe they didn't like, some people don't like to get old. Some people,
Yeah.
right? They don't like joint pain. They don't like the way they look. And so they're like, I'm out of here by 45. I want to look good in the coffin,
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people want to live a really long time and outlive some of their family members and just continue to take care of the family and die in their sleep. Some people just want to go really quick. That could be a gunshot wound or a car accident. So they're making these decisions before they reincarnate,
Mm-hmm.
but they have four other options that they could choose because they have free will. They can leave whenever they want.
Interesting. Mm. Talk about how emotions can contribute to physical disease.
Yeah.
Unprocessed emotions, how does that affect us? How, when we don't feel our emotions, how does that affect us physically?
It's the main reason why people get sick.
Mm.
So moving energy is moving the repressed emotions. So you're right. Most people have no idea what they're feeling. I would say 98% of the people I care for think that they're anxious, depressed. But when I get them into their emotional response system, which takes a little bit of work to get
Yeah.
them out of their head and into their authentic emotions, most of them are happy. They're like, what? And then there's a smaller percentage. I fall in that group where I think I'm happy all the time, and then I get in my emotional response system and no, I'm mad about something that happened 2 weeks
Mm.
ago,
Mm-hmm.
or I'm disappointed or sad about something that happened a couple years ago, so resting in the lower half of the body and connecting to our authentic emotional response system allows people to release the stagnant energy. So emotions unfelt create potentially stagnant energy in people's bodies and then can potentially create disease.
Interesting. Interesting. That is my belief as well. I mean, I'm someone that's passionate about helping people to move their energy. Like we've got, and which are emotions. And when we don't feel those emotions, it's like it gets stuck in the body, right?
That
How do we, if we're someone that is experiencing whether it be physical illness or depression or anxiety, like is there something that you would say to anyone? What
yeah.
would be the next step? Like, what do I do? So, someone that is listening, going, well, gosh, I have anything from cancer to joint pain to depression to anxiety to codependency. What do you recommend?
Okay. So if we're talking about all of that, right?
Yes.
The first thing I would recommend is that you need to emotionally fall in love with yourself. So the
Oh.
third chakra is right here. It's in between the opening of the rib cage, right? It's supposed to be lemon yellow in color. It governs the immune system and
Mm-hmm.
primary organs like liver, pancreas, gallbladder, spleen, stomach, small intestines, along with hormone balance and the lymphatic system.
Mm-hmm.
So each one of the primary chakras, are seven, has an emotional component, each of them. So whenever, I'm reading someone's energy, because when clients come to see me, I don't want to know their diagnosis or what's going on with them. I don't want to know anything. I don't care what the reason is why they're, so I go in cold. I'm a
Love that.
really good going cold person.
Yeah, I love that though.
Yeah. So we're talking about any health issue. So the solar plexus, which governs our immunity and all of these organs, including hormones, which are really incredibly important as we chronologically change. And unfortunately, modern medicine does not teach that. And the hormones they offer are not healthy for the
Yeah.
majority of the population, right?
Yeah.
So falling in love with oneself, though, is not a thought. It's an experience. It's an emotion. Like
Mm.
my dog is in here right now. Luckily, we're on Zoom, so you won't be able to hear him because I have it on the high setting if he were to bark. But whatever you love, I have 6 grandchildren. I adore them. They're stunning and fun and brought all this play energy back to our family, which is so fun. So whenever you can be in a space where you're loving something else or someone else, it could be a mountain, it could be a tree, you want to take some of that energy into your own body so that you start calibrating into your own subatomic particles,
Mm-hmm.
self-love, self-worth. That enhances the immune system. So
Mm.
no matter what health issue is going on for you, if you can fall in love with yourself, even just a little bit, you're going to start to improve your health. And then you're going to change your energy, which is going to help you then attract other solutions. Like you might change your practitioner. You might all of a sudden think about an herb that you want to take. You
Mm-hmm.
might sleep better, all kinds of things. And then there's one other thing. Is it okay if there's another?
Yeah, please.
So the back of the heart chakra is the highest receptivity center in the physical body. And one of the reasons why people can't heal is because they don't know how to receive, which also is also connected to self-worth.
So true. Yes.
Right.
We can't receive, we don't receive well. Yes.
Right.
Hmm.
It's something I
Yeah.
work on all the time, constantly.
Same.
Those two.
Yeah.
So if you can take energy into the back of your heart, and even if you don't know what energy looks like or feels like, you can imagine light moving into your back. You can imagine 1,000 hummingbirds flying into your back. You could be in the shower and just let the shower rain the upper portion of your back so that you can get comfortable with practicing the art of receptivity, because it is an art form to learn that everyone is worthy and deserving of everything they could possibly desire.
So you're taking it into the back of the third chakra or the fourth chakra or
Or,
just that's what I was going to say. You're taking it
yeah,
into the back. So it's right where the chest would be in the back of the body. But then the
exactly.
third chakra, the solar plexus is all about that self-worth, self-love, all of that, correct?
Right. Yeah. The heart chakra is about universal love. And so it's
Yeah.
neutrality. And a lot of empathic people and people who are waking up can become overly empathetic towards others. And
Hmm.
then that doesn't allow them to receive because they're
Hmm.
about everyone else and
Yeah.
they're giving their energy to other people. And then their supplements can't work, right? Yeah. Right. Or
Yes. Know all
their
about
food,
that. Yeah.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh, that's so good. Thank you. I love this idea of like I go for a hike every day in the woods,
Oh,
and I love the idea because I'm always like talking to the trees and everything, right? And the birds and the
yes.
squirrels. But I want to start just bringing all that love, and I'm with my dog who I adore, so I'm just going to bring that energy right to that third chakra and see yellow.
Wonderful.
I love it.
Wonderful.
I
And the back
love
of
it.
the fourth.
Yeah, and the back of the fourth, I'm going to let it in.
Right.
It
Yeah.
is so true. We are not great. I was just talking with someone about this the other day. We don't do well with receiving.
Mm-mm. We've been programmed, from our educational systems to our religion, that we need to be
Hmm.
humble, which I do think is an important aspect.
Yeah.
But majority of people I work with are older soul types, and
Yeah.
they already care for others. They have great compassion. They have wonderful integrity. They don't need to learn compassion for others any longer. It's really younger souls that are working on compassion for
Yeah.
other people. Older souls are working on self-compassion. That's
Hmm.
why they incarnate to the earth realm, is to learn self-compassion, which means setting boundaries, saying no. I told my kids almost a year ago that I'm not going to host Christmas or Thanksgiving for at least 5 years.
Ooh, good for you.
It was hard. I've known for a few years prior that I don't want to. It was really hard. They weren't happy about it, the two that live closest to me, because I actually flew to my other daughter's house for Christmas and it made us delicious spaghetti. I didn't have anything. So, but that was hard. And the person who I needed to set a boundary with was myself.
Hmm.
I'm the one who had to tell them. I'm the one who had to keep that boundary. I don't know where I'm going to go this year because I'm afraid if I stay, I'm just going to go, oh, well, just everybody come to my house. So
Right,
I have to
right,
go
right.
somewhere.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love this so much. So I'm just thinking through my head of people that have, again, chronic illness, autoimmune, like all of these things. You're saying it really boils down again. Oh, you're hitting your third chakra.
Self-love. Yeah. So
Self-love.
that's what I
Yeah.
teach a lot of clients. I move energy in their body. I help them change their perception. I teach them how to feel their emotions. And then I'm teaching them to fall and love with themselves. Because it's a lifelong experience. And
Yeah.
it requires a lot of work every single day, at least in my opinion, because we still live on a planet, with 8 billion human souls, and the majority of them don't do inner work, don't
Right.
understand the concept of self-worth, and
That
they're happy. They
so
can pull
true.
you back into that frequency pretty quick,
Yeah.
which is fine. But then we need to have an awareness. Like, I'll often, here's my little trick. I
Hmm.
love my dog too. I love my kids too. I love all of them. But I mean,
I mean, come on, the dog.
he follows me around the house all day. He adorably looks in my eyes. He's a great
Unconditional love.
cuddler. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So when I walk him, he walks in front of me. And so and his tail curls up. So I can see his
Oh.
butt and his anus, and he's intact. I can see his testicles, so all this swaying and curly hair. And I think it's one of the most adorable things I've ever seen. So I'll ask myself, do I love myself as much as I'm loving Charles's backside now?
Mm.
And the answer is always no. And so then I start taking some of that love I have for him and put it into my own body so I can calibrate that vibration and frequency inside of me.
I love that. That's honestly, I was talking about the adult chair. That's why I wrote this book. That was what, even in my career, going back into my 20s, I remember thinking like I had so much negative self-talk. And I said, I think the antidote for this is loving myself because I don't think I like myself. In fact, I think I might hate myself because of the self talk. So I said, I need to learn how to love myself. And that's been my whole journey. I have a self worth course coming out. That's why I wrote the adult chair book. You're speaking my language, honey. I love it.
Yay!
Well, because I don't think we know how to do that. We're not taught how to do that.
We're taught to do the opposite.
And people say, I'm so happy. My life is so great. But it's like, but do you love yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. It's an
Right?
experience. And I agree with you. Not everyone likes I say, I'm sure we say the same thing, but I
Yeah.
say people loathe themselves. People
Yeah.
hate themselves. They don't like themselves at all. And it's hard for them to hear that initially. They don't, because they're in their mind. But the brain is a very different animal. It's a lovely animal, but it's only for logic. The brain is not emotional. It's like a
Yeah.
computer. Even
Yeah.
though the third eye is in the brain, it does, it's not where intuition originates. It's where we can translate. It's like a screen where we understand the auditory
Yeah.
sensation, but it's not where it originates.
Yeah, so you would say then maybe somebody that's very mind-based, or what I say living chin up, like someone that lives here, they need to get in their body and really start experiencing what they're feeling, like slowing the brain. When we're in that ego in the brain, it's like everything's moving so fast. But when we move below the chin and
Agreed.
explore,
Agreed.
and explore the body, I mean, it's a totally different reality, isn't it?
Completely different reality. I like to hang out like from my hips all the way down to my toes because we already spend a lot of time in this space,
Yeah,
especially older soul types who are in their heart.
yeah,
They're in their third eye, they're in the crown. So I try to get people, even if they're in their feet, I don't care, wiggle your toes, feel
yeah,
your muscles, just
yeah.
get out of your head and then ask, well, now what am I feeling? Now what?
And if you answer fast, it's not the body or the heart
No,
answering,
it is
right?
not. Yeah.
Yeah. I know when I used to work with clients, and even now when I do things on stage and I'm live with the people, I'll say, well, how does that feel? They're like, oh, it doesn't feel good. I'm like, no, 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 no. Answer again and drop your energy below your chin. And then all of a sudden, isn't it fascinating? People are surprised. They go, well, I didn't know I was feeling that. I thought I was feeling X and I'm feeling Y. When I
Right.
drop below my chin, I'm like, it's a different, talk about perception. It's a different reality.
It is. And that's what my guides taught me in the very beginning because I had no idea what I was feeling. In fact, when I finally got into my emotional response system, I didn't know why I was married, why I was a nurse. I didn't have
Wow.
emotional connection to it. I didn't know if I was happy. I was so detached from my own emotions because I could feel everyone else and I had allowed myself to be entertained and a
Mhm.
part of everybody else's emotional response system, but I was completely vacant of my own emotions. And that's when your intuition turns on.
Yep.
When you're in that part of your body,
Yep.
you, right? Like I don't buy a car until I rest in my lower half of my body.
Yeah.
I don't transfer, whatever. I don't do anything until in big decisions until I've rested in the lower half of my body. Even today, I don't know exactly what I'm feeling yet because I haven't gotten out of my busyness
Hmm.
to rest. And my brain has told me 12 different things that I'm feeling, but
Yeah.
I would just say, I don't know yet. I'll let you know in a little bit. I'll let you know in a little bit.
When I drop in. Yeah.
Yeah.
And ground and find
And
out what
ground.
my heart or my body is wanting to tell me.
Yeah.
Talk about, let's see, how I don't know if I want to go into frequency or intuition, but how that shapes our reality and really how we can shift that. Which one you want to do? They're
Love
both
all
so
of
good. I
it.
know they're so good.
Well, everything is about perception, right? And what you
Yeah.
believe, because everything is energy. So we're manifesting constantly all the time.
Constantly,
Const-
but mostly subconsciously.
Correct.
That's why
Yeah.
we got to get in and clean up our old programming,
Yes.
right? Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. It is. We're manifesting all the time. So if you don't know what you're feeling, you don't know what you really desire. Like I didn't know I wanted to be a psychic person. I thought I was completely enthralled in my nursing career. I was very proud. I was happy. I loved it. I was grateful. And then one day I was stepping off the elevator and it felt like the elevator had dropped. And I didn't have the language for it at the time, but my energy dropped. So of course it kept happening. So I bought new scrubs. I got a new stethoscope. You
Mm.
know, I thought, oh, maybe I need to like move to a different part of the hospital to work. But then I just realized, no, the universe is trying to tell me I need to change my job. And I
Mm.
didn't know what was going to be next. I would just pray every morning as I'm getting ready that I would find my passion again. And I didn't care what it was. I just wanted to feel that passion.
Mhm.
So manifesting is really about feeling what you want as if it's already here. But most people don't know what they want, right?
Right.
So they're kind of on automatic pilot, creating mostly through fear and anxiety and doubt and low vibrational energy. So all the things we don't want in life exist at a low vibration.
Mhm.
And all the things we do want in life are exist in a high vibration. And then frequency to me means that you're holding the vibration. So some people hold their vibration frequency in the frequency and low vibration. You know, their life is always dramatic. It's always falling apart. The car is always breaking down. It's like the old type of country music songs, right? You know, and
Yes, I
my
know
heart
those.
goes right. My heart goes out to them because I know they
Mhm.
have a completely different life, but they don't know that yet, perhaps.
Mhm.
And then when you can keep your vibration elevated, you create a frequency and high energy, and magic happens. Stuff just works out.
Mm.
It's just incredible. Life is super fun. You get to walk in the woods every day and talk to the trees, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we do that?
So falling in love with yourself helps with vibration and frequency.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also think people need to learn to manage their mind. You know,
Yes.
a lot of humans are really against this. They feel like, oh, now we're moving into,
Mhm.
you know, spy theories or something, right? But the
Yeah.
brain is a logical tool. It's meant to be managed. The ego, which lives in the brain, is drenched in fear,
Mhm.
and fear is an illusion. So we don't want to make any decisions or choices. I've never had the universe tell me anything intuitive that had any slice of fear in it or dash of slice of fear in it ever. So I ignore all of that. If I'm having a kind of an intuitive experience and my ego starts to get involved, it's going to be fear based,
Yep.
right?
Yep. But I realize people don't know if they're in their ego or not. They think their ego is just who they are, and it's not. They don't
Ex-
have a different
no,
understand or not. They don't have that other experience of outside of that ego perspective.
right.
Right.
So I think the first thing to just realize is if you're in fear, you're dancing with your ego.
Hmm.
You know, because I think the word ego and fear are synonymous, and the way it's defined in the dictionary is inaccurate because it's telling you not to love yourself again. You
Hmm.
know, it's just
Hmm. Hmm.
and the ego does not want us to expand. The ego wants us to stay small and little because if we keep expanding, we're not going to need our ego and we're going to evolve away from it.
Hmm.
So in managing your mind, here's a technique that I love to teach. And I ask people to kind of figure out when they walk in a room, are you looking at the wall or the carpet? Are you using your eyes? Are you listening to the room when you walk in? Are you feeling the room when you walk in? And to have an awareness of how you approach when you're getting in a car or walking in another room. Like I'm highly visual. So I look at everything. And train your eyes or your ears or your
Hmm.
sentient energy to
Hmm.
only focus on positive things.
Mm.
You know,
Okay.
so I don't look at the scuff marks on the wall
Hmm.
or a stain somewhere. You
Hmm.
know, I put a lot of artwork and things that I like at eye level in the house, and I've trained myself to keep my eyes so I can keep my energy elevated towards positive, lovely things that I think are pretty, right?
Mm.
And I did that in my yard, lots of plants. I look out windows, I see flowers. If you are an auditory person, then you want to pay attention to beautiful sounds like the sounds of nature or birds or wind, not sirens, not screaming.
Hmm.
Because so as we stay in our ego, people start looking for the scary stuff. They start listening for the scary stuff.
Mm.
The people who have the most challenge are the clairsentient ones, the ones
Mhm.
who that's their major um, way they move
Feeling.
in the world. Yes, because they are only doing this out of fear and they're actually out of their body
Hmm.
trying to, is that building safe? You know, they
Yeah.
don't even, right?
Yeah.
So if they could stay in their body and then feel the space, feel how pretty your toes look, or feel
Mm.
how nice your jeans fit on your body, or feel your earrings or your hat, or, stay in some positive reference to your relationship with your body, then
Hmm.
your energy elevated.
And don't you find when people do that, they slow down? I
Yes.
stop. It's like, and that's the resistance, like slowing down. And I find myself, because I love what I do so much, and I'm go, go, go all day. And I'll feel, I live on a lake in the trees. So I'll say, I have to go sit by the lake right now. And my next thought is, but you don't have time. You have so much to do. And I'm like, but wait, once I get myself out there, I'm like, oh, I'm in heaven on earth right here. But it's the ego ungripping. And so I can go sit. And then once I get there, I slide into almost an altered reality. Like I feel the flow state again. I'm like, okay. But it's hard for me sometimes to get out there and do that. And I think I'm not the only one on the planet that
You're
has
not.
that issue. Yeah,
It
right.
also makes you more productive, oddly.
Totally. That's where I get all my
Oddly.
downloads and
Right.
ideas. Right.
Well, and that's why
Yeah.
I love having a dog because he has to walk twice. He's a tall dog. He needs
Yeah.
2 walks a day. That means I'm outside for probably 2 hours a day and I back up to wetlands. So
Oh,
it's very
beautiful.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
And right. So, yes. So you make choices. I think if you just start, even if you just sit down first thing in the morning before you get in your email or
Hmm.
answer a text, which is challenging. Like we wake up with our phones next to our heads, most people, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you could just for like 15 minutes go sit outside and drink a cup of tea or look out the window or close your
Mm,
eyes just to keep that vibration that you attained during your rest to begin to start your day, you are going to be more productive and happier and keep your energy at a higher vibration.
mm. Wow. Oh my God. I could ask you like 100 questions right
We could
here.
talk all day, right?
I know. I think I'm going to fly out west and
Where
see you.
are you, by the way?
I'm
Where
in
are you?
Charlotte, North Carolina. Here's
Oh, my
north of
daughter
Charlotte.
lives just outside of Raleigh in
Okay, we're going
Holly
to talk after
Springs.
the
I
show.
know. I was in North Carolina twice last year.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah,
We have to meet up in person.
I know. I agree. I agree.
All right, let's give people, if you're open to it,
Yeah.
for the
Oh,
last few
yeah, yeah.
minutes,
Yeah, yeah,
if
yeah.
you're only if you're open to it, I want to give people an experience of what's possible because some people have never had the experience of working with a medical and intuitive person and media, all of the things.
Hmm.
So
So go
let's,
for it. Yeah.
yeah, let's go, honey. Let's just
So
see what,
what I'm
yeah.
going to do, I don't think anyone's going to be, I don't have to do this, but I do it sometimes. I draw out people's energy really fast.
Oh,
So like, all my sessions are on Zoom typically. And so I'll just go into the calendar, I'll write someone's name down and then I'll draw
hmm,
their energy. So I'm
okay.
just doing that for you right now.
Oh my gosh. I love that. Or anyone that wants to watch this on video, go to YouTube and check out what she's doing. It's so
I
cool.
know. I mean, I drew it big so that hopefully we could see it, right?
This is so exciting.
One of the things you're working on is believing that you're lovable. And you
Oh,
and you
yeah.
know you are, like you know it.
Well, mentally, yes. Yeah.
Right. Because you've had significant betrayals in previous lifetimes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And in this
significant.
lifetime, too.
Right. And that's how we kind of know
Yep.
is that we've had betrayals in this lifetime. With every lifetime that we're working on a topic, we make it kinder and less difficult. But the ones you had were really, in the past life, they were just very difficult. And that's why it's so
Yeah.
intense when it happens in this lifetime. And it's just such a shock because you have such great integrity and
Mm,
and your honesty is so deep. And so betrayal usually comes because people weren't honest with us, right? They lied, they cheated,
definitely.
they did stuff
Definitely.
like that, right? So I already saw some of your past lives when we first started talking.
Well,
Yeah.
let's
And
go.
and I saw it connected to the back of your heart chakra. So I knew there was a betrayal, right? And I have
Mm-hmm.
similar, I had similar things too as well. So I'm going to just show you a little bit of the picture I drew. So
Wow.
right. So
Yeah.
this is your crown chakra. It's huge. It goes way off into the heavens. It's been like that, the moment you were born, you
Yeah.
felt a connection to the divine and the multisensory world. And you,
Hmm.
you really think of that as your home,
It
not
is. And I
that.
feel sad. I miss it. I almost could cry. I miss it so
Oh,
much. I'm like, I just sometimes
oh,
just want to go back there because I have a vague
oh,
memory of what it's like. Yeah.
oh. So yeah, you have an extensive crown that reaches, past, into multiple dimensions, which is also
Hmm.
why you bring fresh information to Earth because you have
Mm,
strong, beautiful connection. Look at your third eye. So this is the front portion of your third eye. Look at all these strong grid lines. It's easy for you to translate non-physical into physical. So it makes sense for you. It's really
yes.
quickly. And you have worked beautifully on that self-criticism. I know you already know that. But
Hmm.
when I see elongated back portion of the third eye, I know the person's highly self-critical, but you have just a little space, maybe 10 inches that the vortex extends. And
Wow.
the back of the heart is where this betrayal has been. And
Yep.
it's still a little gray in there in the back portion. You're just like, are they really
Yes.
there? Did they, like, I don't know, which is not a bad thing, because when you've been betrayed, you need to be able to sit with yourself and feel if you're making the right decision. Because what happens with people who've historically been betrayed, myself included, it's because I did not listen to my own intuition. I highly caring people just assume everyone's good, and they
Mm-hmm.
are
Mm-hmm.
within their core, but they may not be acting that way. They might be in some wounded parts of their. So it's good to take a step back, maybe do it from a different place. Like, well, I want to wait till I intuitively know it's in my best interest and my best decision, and so what happens is, for people like yourself, is that you just need more time sometimes, right? You just need, you even though you're fast and you can make really quick decisions, well, when it comes to certain critical aspects in your life or personal aspects in your life, you need 48 hours. You might need 2 hours.
That's true.
You need to sit within yourself and then go, okay, yeah, that's good. I can do that. That's good, right?
That's so true.
So I would just continue working on receiving through the back, like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, these past lives, they're probably like in the dark ages. There's like 3, maybe not consecutive, but close together. You were a woman and 2 of them, a male and one. And it was just one of those time periods where you really couldn't speak your truth. You shouldn't, but you didn't go that way. You have integrity. You're an older soul type. And so things happened to your body that were extremely uncomfortable.
Yep.
It was hard for you not to speak your truth. And just wasn't the time period to do so. For the gentleman, I think that was even harder because they hurt the family, not him.
Oh.
So you can see how when a betrayal comes to you, right, even though it's much less in its challenge and what occurs, it still feels like, because you're still resolving in this lifetime, you're healing it in this lifetime, and you're doing beautiful. My throat chakra is reacting. Yeah, you're still healing this, but you can see that it was just a really big deal,
Interesting.
And now you're doing everything you can to speak your truth at the highest level that you possibly can, because you decided to reincarnate into a time-space reality where you can.
Yeah. But definitely, I've had memories of being burned at the stake for speaking up. Like I have vivid memories of that.
Yes.
So there's always this like, is it okay to speak up? I'm doing it.
Well, you live in one of the safest countries in the world.
Yeah.
Which is true still.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's one of the best times ever to be a woman, not in every country, but in a lot of countries. So we still need improvements everywhere in the world for women.
Yes.
But it is the right time for you to express your truth and to say how you feel. It is
so good. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Oh my God, I love it. Thank you for demoing for everyone. So first of all, where do people find you? How can they work with you? Because I know you have a very long list. You can't you can't even get on your calendar, but how else can people work with you, and give us your website? Where can we direct people?
So energyintuitive.com or mariemanuchehri.com would land at the same place. I teach extensively. I'm teaching multiple courses right now. I teach on psychic ability, energy healing. I'm teaching a class on self-love right now. I teach on translating intuition. I also teach for the Shift Network. I teach on my own platform as well. I have a podcast too, and people can leave a voicemail question on my podcast, and I will answer it. I'm usually 6 months, like it could take 6 months before you get your answer. But you will get an answer from me, an intuitive response. So you can just go again to my website, get on the podcast page, leave your voicemail. You get a free self-hypnosis for leaving a question.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I do an international retreat most years. I think we might have one spot left. I'm not sure, for Ireland. It's in July. It's for 5 weeks. It's called the Joyful Intuitive Method, because I really believe joy is the answer to everything. What else? I have a book. I was published by Sounds True. It's been a while since I wrote, but it's called Intuitive Self-Healing. And so there's case studies in there and some techniques in there. But it has been 12 years since I published, so it's been a little while.
Oh my gosh. We will put all of this in the show notes. And thank you so much for
You're
being with us today.
welcome. Thank you so much, Michelle. It was lovely to spend. And I love that you're in North Carolina because I have to go there. My child
Yes.
and son-in-law and babies are there. So
Well, I'm going to exchange info with you so we can meet up in person.
yay, we can hang out. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. And again, what a gift you are to the world. So thank you for what you're doing in the world. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Michelle. We feel exactly the same about you. And we wish you and your audience many, many joyful blessings.